Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. A little bit of a different format for this week, in case you haven't noticed, either by looking at me if you're on YouTube or listening to my voice. I am under the weather, so been unable to record the usual pre-ramblings as it pertains to the video game industry and the news and the headlines and whatnot. But I will be stitching on at the end of this little intro and explanation a impression session with Mr. Adcock about Street Fighter 6. It runs for about an hour or so it's still a decent wedge, a decent bit of content. So just thought I'd drop in here, say hello, explain that I'm basically dying, and you might not see me next week, so I guess you'll have to stay tuned if you want to see whether I survived this. Anyway, I'm going to go back to bed. And, well, actually, I've got to publish all this shite, so I'm giving it every chance, but it's just not happening. Anyway, I'll see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some game impressions to close out this edition of Idle Game Chat. Got Apps here, joined by Pac-Man himself, Tom Adcock. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
All good this side. You are here to talk about Street Fighter 6. That will shock the audience, because a lot of people just assume this is Adkins' gig, fighting games. He normally picks them up and plays through most of them. I think he's more of a Mortal Kombat and Tekken guy, but he has played Street Fighter 6. I don't know to what extent, but a little known sort of factoid about you is that you are and have been a big Street Fighter fan for decades now, and actually go online and play against other people. And do you even play any other games online competitively? I would assume no these days. That's all sort of behind you.
No, the only other one would have been in the last 5 years, probably Fall Guys. So that's
right.
Getting played.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Street Fighter 6 draws you back in.
Yes. Yeah, I even renewed my online subscription for it. I'd let that lapse because I was doing nothing online, wasn't really taking advantage of any of the monthly games. So this got me renewing.
How many of these mainline ones have you played? I mean, there's 6 there, but they've released about 3 versions of each, and they've done like collections and whatnot. Have you been there since at least Street Fighter 2? I don't know if you was there for the original. That seems to be a lot of people's blind spot, but Street Fighter 2 kind of come along. But what about the rest of them?
So 2 and all the iterations of 2, which there were many, all of them would have been played in some level. 3, no. I just think it was a bit jarring having a completely new roster and graphical style. It might have just come at a time when I wasn't really playing games as much and maybe moved on from fighting games.
Yeah.
Blew back in with 4, loved 4. Was there day one for 5, but it released in a bit of a sorry state, so never really took to it. I went back to 4, in fact, after a while, but that's how obsessed I was with that.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, and then obviously once I heard 6 was coming out, knew I'd be going in for that. Whether it was good or bad, I would have tested the water for sure.
Was there a concern that it might be another Street Fighter 5? For those that don't know, I mean, it's not like the game released in a bad state, but it's very content light in terms of not just the roster, but features as well and options. It was really bare bones, and then they ended up releasing 2 versions of it later on, which eventually kind of got it up to snuff. But a lot of people said this is a great core game to be playing, but struggling with just a feature set.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough to lose me, to be honest. I can't remember how much I put into it, but I don't think I ever went back with any of the big updates. So, yeah, it cost me the game, even though, like you said, core game was still great. It's just going from, I think, by the end of Street Fighter 4, which released in a much, more full package and then had numerous content updates and characters. So by the end of that run, you had probably 30 characters, and it was like looking at a Smash Brothers roster and then going back to maybe 10 to 12 characters, even though I kind of just play as the same two all the time anyway. It felt poor, it's real shame that.
So
but no, I was sorry, I was going to say, I would have played this. I guess I was a little bit concerned, but I picked it. I was confident enough that I put it in my high in my list of games for the Grand Prix or whatever you call it, Fantasy Gaming League. I didn't get it, but I thought they would correct their mistakes. They've been on a good run, the old Capcom boys. So I was fairly confident they'd get it right this time.
Yeah, it's been a long time as well since 2016. So that's a long old time to not have an iteration, especially when like Mortal Kombat feels like it's every 3 years. Basically, they've churned through that series. Like, I think they're on like 12 at least now because they've gone back to 1, haven't they? And it was 11 last. Yep. So there's definitely a big gap there, and it probably was spent a lot of the time getting 5 up to a content level. I think the Champion Edition, which was like the last kind of release, looks like 2020 was one of the last packs for that. I mean, that is another thing with these fighting games, is that even once you've got the base game, as the years go on, they add more and more fighters usually. We'll get to whether you'll perhaps keep that up with Street Fighter 6 a bit later on. One last question around just Street Fighter and fighting games in general, and the shift from what would have been in-person couch co-op and or arcade competitive fights to online. How has that shift been? Because it's basically, that's all there is now these days. Obviously, you could invite someone round, but it's just not happening in 2023. Does it still feel like there's something missing? Or do the options just be able to go onto a game online, just play any random person on the internet immediately, kind of plug that gap and actually enhance it?
I mean, it plugs the gap for sure. Enhance it, I don't know. But like you said, there's just, the world's moved on so much, and whereas when this game or franchise kind of hit its real stride, it was the main type of game people were playing for the mid to late 90s perhaps, but those days are long gone now. So the fact that you can go online and find that community is brilliant. I mean, is it better than playing, and beating somebody next to you? Probably not, but it's the next best thing, and it's, I mean, in a way, it's better because you've got a constant lineup of opponents, right? So I guess arguably
always fresh
better.
As well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. I know a lot of people still prefer the old school way, but you'd only get to play once a week. So if you do really want to play it, online will always have you covered, especially with the popularity of this one. Little bit on the old... You play this on the PS5, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
I think we've got 25-ish hours logged in, according to the old PS5 game. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it's more accurate than the Nintendo one, because it only updates every 5 hours. Jesus. So every 5-hour blocks, you'll get an update for that, whereas Sony's is pretty okay, I find. But here's the store page. Here comes Capcom's newest challenger, Street Fighter 6. Launches worldwide on June. Why are they putting the release date in the notes? What's that doing in there? That should have been edited out now. It's months past that. Anyway, powered by Capcom's proprietary RE engine, the Street Fighter 6 experience spans across 3 distinct game modes featuring World Tour, Fighting Ground, and Battle Hub. Diverse roster of 18 fighters. So, it's called out there's 3 kind of game modes: World Tour, Fighting Ground, and Battle Hub. Have you dabbled in all 3 of those? And obviously, I'm sure you would have gravitated to one of those specifically, but did you at least boot up each of the modes and see what they're offering?
Yes.
Excellent. So we'll dig into those. 18 fighters out of the gate. Is that enough? Is that good? Is that the minimum requirement or decent enough?
No, I'd say 12 is your minimum, so 18's good. I think I put it back on tonight, I think we got 12 previous and 6 new, I think, is how I counted it. It might be 10 and 8, but I think I'm pretty sure 12 and 6. So yeah, that's a good start, and there's a lot of characters, classic characters, that are for sure waiting in the wings to kind of, come back.
Yeah.
people would be excited for. But my two main characters were there, so I was happy from the offshoot. Probably won't.
Who are your two mains?
Ryu.
Yep.
Obviously, yeah, the good guy. And Zangief, the wrestler I've always... I say always, since Street Fighter 4, I started dabbling with him, and he is ludicrously powerful. So, yeah, it's good.
He gets my vote because he's a wrestler. And I would always choose... I call him Ryu, but I don't know if you're allowed to do that. I've seen people say, Ryu. People are trying to get rid of the R now, and I'm like, well, hang on, this is not... Get silly about it. God's sake. No Ken.
No, I've never liked Ken.
No?
Yeah.
Those
Just
blonde locks, too envious.
Yeah. Yeah. Arrogant bastard. Yeah. I've always liked noble old Ryu, just sort of chilling out in Japan, having his little fight and wandering off. It's good.
Didn't they make like Ken like a drunk in one of them, or like almost like a hobo almost? I don't know if it was a skin or something. I felt like they made him really like gritty and like tried to.
Yeah, they've definitely done that. They've had him in like an old trench coat, I think. Yeah.
Gone down the dark path. Anyway, played on PS5. In terms of a performance and presentation, there's always a complaint, it seems, when it comes to these games. Oh, they've changed the art style again. The characters don't look how they're supposed to. They look too cartoon. There's always some level of complaint. With 6, I mean, A, do you even care about that sort of stuff, really? But with 6, what did they go for? And is it palatable to the Pac-Man eyes?
Yeah, they've just kind of gone for a play on what they already had in 4 and 5, like big, chunky, like cartoony comic book looks, which I think is perfect for this series.
All got muscles, they're all like absolutely ripped.
Yeah, absolutely hench. I think the only complaint I would have, I don't really care. If they went for a more realistic vibe, probably would, because they did that, well, I think they done a Street Fighter movie tie-in and it looked appalling. I mean, obviously it wouldn't look like that now.
No.
But no, as long as it's somewhere in the vein of what you always see, I've got no bother with it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, it works.
Excellent. Did you have any technical issues, any crashes, or even, I guess, in this space, because you're playing online quite a lot, any connectivity troubles or queuing or things like that? Anything to report negatively on that front?
So no, you've got a really good base of players. You're always finding the game really quick. Obviously, if you go for like I don't know if they call it ping or, the quality of the service. So if you want to play like people in Asia, you can. You are going to have some problems there. If you're kind of playing anyone in the world, there will be connectivity issues and lag and whatnot, and it kind of jumps around. But a lot of people will just end the game, if it's too poor, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you keep it into your region, then no, absolutely fine. Found it perfect.
And no other issues with the game itself in terms of a technical no
crashes, no, nothing like that.
Clean bill of health for Street Fighter 6. I know some people think that's redundant, but the amount of games that have shipped that aren't for about a month is quite crazy. So I was reading into this, and what they're basically saying in terms of a control perspective, they've got classic, modern, and dynamic, 3 different control types. Now, you're an experienced player. Yeah, I don't know whether you would bother dabbling with modern or dynamic just to see what they're like. But for those that aren't initiated, what do those modes kind of offer, and which one did you opt for?
So I'd be curious. I'm not sure what dynamic is. So modern, I would assume, is the one where they've now really... It's great. It's the default now. It starts on that. So I wouldn't have dabbled, but it was there in my face. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? Essentially, it turns what is quite complicated, I guess, inputs to do the special moves that I'm sure you're aware of. If people don't know, you might have to push like back for 2 seconds, forward for 2 seconds. That will create a special move, or like very quickly input down, forward, down, punch, and things like that. So what they do is get rid of all of that, and it's more like Smash Brothers. So you might press left and A, and that will unleash one special move, back and A for another, and then down and saying A. It's not the right input, it's literally Smash Brothers, but X or O or whatever it is, triangle, and that will be your special. Simple as that. So it just really, really makes what could be quite complicated very, very simple. So really anyone can pick up and play this, and it is obviously, it's got a lot of credit for that. Not something, it really confused me, to be honest, because I didn't ever like the menus, the training, like, trying to onboard new players in this game is very, very good. So if I'd probably spent 2 minutes looking at a couple of pages of text, I probably would have got the hang of it. And it might have been, because I've heard until you get to sort of the upper echelons of players, you can be quite competitive using that scheme.
Yeah.
But I just went with what I know. I wanted to jump in quickly, and that's what I did. So I switched it over.
Yeah.
The dynamic, I'm assuming, I don't know if that's a hybrid of those two, or
I've got a little
bit
here.
Okay, go for it.
Eventhubs.com. Playing on Street Fighter 6 with dynamic controls is basically playing with an AI assistance. Everything is simplified down to just 3 buttons that take care of all attacks and some manoeuvring, and then 2 more that trigger drive impact and parry respectively. When we say assistance here, it's more like you're assisting the AI than it's assisting you. So that is like a proper scaled down version of it. So might be good for me. I love being passive and just not doing anything.
Yeah.
So might be of use.
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, I don't know if that allows you to play that online with that. Perhaps it does, but that seems almost cooking the books a bit, like giving anyone a real good chance. But yeah, that's sort of the level they've gone to try and make this accessible for anyone. It's good.
Yeah. Do they, when you go online, does it say, can you filter out people that are playing certain control schemes, or is it just open, or does it tip you off if someone's on modern controls, for example, or do you not see anything like that?
As far as I know, you don't know. That's why I was curious about the AI assisted one, because to me that's probably why I lost a few games.
Well, I think generally, they say the people that are good will always beat the others. Within reason. Like, you might get unlucky a few times, but you have so many more options and you know what you're doing. Like, when the AI's assistant, it doesn't really know what you're trying to do. It's just trying to adapt, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that some people might have got through, but I can already hear like proper players going, well, I'd never lose to someone on dynamic. It's just ridiculous. I've got all this all these skills and strategies I can use. But it's interesting they've got 3 modes in there for people, and that it kind of gives people an opportunity to go through that. Now, this was under the Fighting Ground section on the store page. What is Fighting Ground? Is that some sort of separate mode, or is it just like a little tutorial?
So no, I think essentially you've obviously got the campaign now, whatever you called that. What do they call it?
World Tour.
World Tour, okay. And then you've got the hub.
Yeah.
Now, hub and Fighting Grounds are essentially the same thing, except for the Fighting Hub is like making like the online play really like modern. Like, so you'll see a bit like a Miiverse. You'll see all the people milling around. There'll be all the other options, but you'll actually see your character represented on screen. You can walk over to an arcade cabinet. You can queue up to play, like, to make it as old school. So literally put your quarter on top of the cabinet. When you watch what's playing, you eventually get your turn, and if you win, you can stay on. If you lose, you don't. There's a whole bunch of options like that, and they're all like in this hub. The Fighting Grounds is how it would have been in Street Fighter 4 and 5. So the same type of thing, but just in lists, online play, casual, ranked, training. But yeah, so it is different, but essentially the same, with, all the faff stripped out. And it's just like, what do you want to do today? Do you want to train? Do you want to fight? Do you want it to be ranked or unranked? Simple as that.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. Absolutely. So what did you choose over, I guess, the Fight Hub and the Fighting Grounds, which was your preferred place? Did you like wandering around with the little battle hub chap, or was you like, this is just downtime that I don't need?
Exactly that. I had to go with it, and I was just like, well, look, I know what I want to play here. I'm a bit boring with it, so I was just like, just give me a quick list and get me in as quick as possible. Well, I don't want to be queuing up. Just get me the next fighter, jump in, let's go. So yeah, I dabbled with it, but then jumped back into what's familiar.
It's interesting how they try and add an extra layer over what I would assume most people just want to jump in and play like you. Like, you've got 20 minutes. How many games can I fit in? Okay, I can do, however many. Going to that battle hub, wandering around, sort of bumping into our arcade cabinets just slows it down. But there's this kind of this push, isn't there? Or this drive to think, we've got to try and make things as interactive as possible, make a little like community out of it for people. And I guess that's what they're going for.
Because no one can moan, because if someone comes in new and says, well, this looks like archaic now, like, where I want it like to be like Fortnite, it is like Fortnite. You've got your little hub to start with, and it would look familiar to somebody in 2023 who's never picked up this game before, it would look like a lot of other games.
Yeah.
Whereas an old dinosaur like me is like, right, there's my little text list. Let me do what I want to do. Like and it doesn't. It's there if you want it. If not, the old way's there too.
Yeah.
It's ideal, really. You can't. No one. I can't see how anyone could moan about either section. Take it or leave it.
Best of both, Hovis style.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to do it. Explore the streets in World Tour. Now, this was the thing that caught my eye, obviously, because it's some zany, weird career stroke story stroke challenge mode. Here's how they've described it. I know you didn't complete it because I think it was just a bit too off the wall basically at times, but here's how it's described on the store page. Discover the meaning of strength in World Tour, an immersive single player story. Take your avatar and explore Metro City and beyond. Meet masters who will take you under their wing and teach you their style and techniques. They haven't really gone into depth there, but what I remember looking at this from the trailers and whatnot is it looked a little bit like, and I don't mean Yakuza is, this Yakuza's got far more depth because it's designed around this completely, but it gave me those sort of vibes where you're wandering around, you can sort of start fights with random people, you can see other characters and obviously train under them and do all this stuff. I'm assuming there's rankings and progressions and experience to level up your avatar in this case, which I guess that's the kind of a thing, isn't it, that will put people off. You can't take your Ryu in there. You just got to have like standard, like whatever avatar you've made yourself. But for the time that you did spend in here, talk me through kind of how it was, and then ultimately why you was like, I'm just not dealing with this anymore. Because this is what I would play if I got the game. This is all I'd play, and it even to me, I was like, that looks mental. What they're doing there. It
is mental. So I would say it reminds me of like a cross between, like, not that I've played Yakuza, but Yakuza, of what I know of it, GTA, and like Fortnite. It's pretty mental, like, because it's basically like an RPG. So you've got as you say, you build your avatar, and essentially under the tutelage of the regular characters, you can learn their moves. So, but then I guess that's kind of the main thing here. You start. I think the first person you meet is Chun-Li. Get like the spinning bird kick, and then like in the map, that will be then how you can kind of climb buildings. You can use her spinning kick to go across gaps. It's like that kind of insane. And then you could maybe meet Dalsim or Zangief, and you get their moves on top of her moves. So you can actually take that character online in that fighting hub, which is. Yeah, so you've got your own kind of abomination of a character, and like there is a really in-depth, not saying it's good, but just some of the things you see walking around, you're like, what is that? Because obviously you've got like Blanca, and there's some kind of crazy characters in this game, so you can go off the wall with it. But yeah, essentially it's a lot of like, I guess, basic RPG elements, fetch quests, side quests, like factions. It's kind of all there in this world where you can start a fight with anyone. Doesn't matter if they deserve it or not. Lots of people start fights with you, and that will then teach you the basics of the game, is the impression I got. You'll get characters that only use projectiles. You kind of learn how to fight against them, but you might also get like 2 or 3 people fight you at once. It kind of goes into Smash Brothers territory. But I played maybe 4 or 5 hours of this, and I think only then did I realise how big. I think it's like a 20 or 25 hour campaign.
I don't think it's not quick. No.
Yeah, and when I realised that, I was like, do you know what? This is a bit. I don't know if I'm enjoying this or not.
Enough.
I feel like that's where Street Fighter's always compared to a Mortal Kombat. Not that I've really played them past the original kind of trilogy, but from what I understand, their story modes are actually quite decent now, whereas Street Fighter's always been kind of bare bones, like a little like a manga anime cutscene, very basic, a little ending at the end, but start and end, bookmark it, but other than that you're not getting a lot. So I guess in one way I'm like, well, fair play, they've tried something different here. Again, it's there, take it or leave it. Is it for me? No, I don't really know. If this was a game, like if it was just that game, I don't know who's going to get much out of that, if you know what I mean, without an online component in it. But it's interesting for sure. It's just a bit too wacky. I mean, I know Street Fighter is a wacky franchise anyway.
True.
they kind of gone to town. They've really lent into it on that world tour.
Yeah, I've just looked at how long to beat, and it's got it at 17 hours for the main story, 31 hours for main and sides, and then like all styles 27 hours.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty meaty for a fighting game based single player mode. So fair play for putting it in there, but probably will have to be something that I'll get given for free on some service to try, because I think paying 55 quid just to do that wouldn't be appropriate for me. I'd have to try and learn the game itself. Anyway, so that's World Tour. It's good that it's there because, you know, there will be people that find that of interest. People do love the wackiness of it as well. So there is something there for people if they want to just dive into that mode. Back to, I guess, the core fighting. This is really the big moment for them. Have they got down a good fighting system here? I've seen this drive gauge being mentioned, all this parrying and stuff. So I know they always tweak things and change things between entries. I don't know how much they change them, whether it's actually quite significant. But talk us through what you're getting from a fighting game and a mechanic perspective for Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, let me see if I can it's a pretty simple but very deep system. They have changed it, so I know in Street Fighter 3 they had the parry system. I don't know what it was called in 4. In 5 they had something called V triggers. I think a lot of the other entries, you would often have, you know, there would obviously be the core mechanic that gets changed, and then you might get a choice of 3 styles of moves for your character and things. In this, it's very different in that you've got this drive system, and I believe that has 5 like mechanics in it. I guess one of the biggest differences in the other systems, you'd fight, you'd build up your meter, and then you could unleash. In this, you start with a full meter in every round, which is key. So you can really, it's one of those sort of simple mechanics or changes, a bit like giving you all the, you know, weapons in Zelda to begin with and letting you go where you want. This then, you know, you can start a game defensive, you can start a game offensive, or you can literally start with all your specials. You can, you know,
try and just blow them away early and get on top of them.
Exactly. So I can't remember all the different things you can do with this drive meter, but there's like a drive parry, a drive rush. So, you know, you can kind of, a rush would like let you go through one block and come in and you know, close the distance on the character, and that would take away like 1 block of your drive meter. I think there's 5 blocks. The biggest thing is the drive impact. And what this does is, if you start the drive impact, it will let you absorb 2 hits, and then you'll hit your opponent, crumple them to the ground, so then you get the opportunity to do like a combo follow-up. So it can really, really change the, you know, the flow of a match, put it in your favour. However, they've done it in such a clever way that it's, as long as you're looking out for it, there's like that split second where you can counter it, and to counter it, you simply initiate it yourself. So you hit me with the drive impact. A split second later, I do it back to you, and then you do yours. I absorb it, and I hit you straight back, and all of a sudden, it's gone. So you're constantly on the lookout for this move. If you use up all your drive meter, you kind of go into this, I forget, it's probably got a name, but essentially your character goes a bit like hollow looking. And you can't. So then, if they do a move on you and you block, you take a little bit of chip damage. So if you're already sort of near dying, this is then puts you on a really nervous state. If they then do an impact, you can't block anything, because the drive impact, you can block it, but it will take away one of your drive blocks.
Yep.
If you're close to the edge of the screen, right or left, if it knocks you back to the screen, you'll then crumple and they'll get your combo on you. So it's a really, really dangerous. It's fundamentally the most like, you know, driving force in a match. Really, really is. And you can do like a drive and then cancel it to trick people. There's all sorts you can do just with that one move, bearing in mind there's then 4 others.
Sure.
So it's quite insane. And some of the games then, when my favourite kind of games I've played is when I've then used all mine up, because you can still, once you're in that sort of a hollow position, you can still attack. Your attacks do the same damage. You know, that's also,
it's just vulnerable.
You're very vulnerable. But to come back with a win from that like position is very doable and very rewarding. You know, you can't believe your luck really, and it's some really good moments based on that. So I think that whether you enjoy it or not is how much you enjoy that system. I thought it was brilliant, really simple to execute those moves, and just throws matches, one way or the other, constantly. It's really, 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 really good.
Yeah, and he said it's per round, so it's not per fight, so you'll be getting a chance to do that every time you square up again.
Exactly.
And I like the sound of it being there for everyone at the start as well, because I think too often these games require you to build up, momentum or something of that sort. And it really leans into the more skilled player from the offset. They can just get ahead, then they can use their momentum, then you're sort of behind, you're snookered, and then you've got no chance really. Whereas this just completely evens the playing field, and there's a strategy. You've both got to be aware of how much of your drive's been used on each player, what you've got left, and I can already from what you said see where this. Given how complex the games are just for the base moves, if you took all this away, you'd still be very strategic and having to fight. You've now got this layer on top.
Exactly. But like I said, to execute the moves very simple. It's interesting kind of going through, like, I got so far with it, done really well. And then once I kind of hit that ceiling, I realised that it's happened to me on the others as well, where you kind of realise you've got to relearn the whole way you play. There's so many different ways to use these systems that you realise you're only using them to 20% of what they can actually do. And once you hit people who know a bit more, you're like, I'm not going to win these games. It's difficult.
Yeah. How do you activate? Is it just one button press, or is it like a trigger, or would you?
No, it's just like two buttons basically will start it. So but it's just a button press. There's nothing more to it than.
I can imagine if this was like 1993 and this same system was in place, they would make you do some insane combo to access it or unlock it. I remember playing the wrestling games, and it used to infuriate me of WWF Attitude and Warzone, where you had to do a 6-button combo to do your finisher. And eventually they got the idea in the 2000s where it's just hit L1 or hit R1 to do it. But I can just imagine an old school game going, oh yeah, you've got to do the Konami code, then it'll activate.
Well, I remember I picked my characters on Mortal Kombat because they were the one or two characters where the finishing move was simple to do, because they were ludicrous on that, ridiculous, and they were obviously you're only a split second to actually do it. So so annoying.
I think they've got rid of all that. In terms of the online play, how balanced was this kind of skill matching, putting you against players that were of similar level, so it was competitive? And I know it probably takes a few hours for it to bed in with your skill type, and after a few weeks I guess things settle down. But did you find yourself consistently winning or losing, or was it quite good at sort of keeping things mixed up and keeping you challenged but not completely demoralised?
No, it is good, I guess, because the way the pointing system works, and the way you rank up and down is it's constant. So you're always playing people in a very similar category to you. Like you said, I think I didn't play the game until it maybe been out for 3 or 4 weeks anyway. So I kind of blasted through. I think I sent you some screenshots of 10 and 11 game win streaks, but that quickly kind of evaporated and got much more competitive. So no, it's really good at that, actually. And then what you say you have this is kind of annoying bit about it in a way, but it's not the system, it's people. So you have a ranked match, you fight 3 rounds, or you can choose 1 round or 5 rounds. Most people have 3 rounds.
Choose 5 rounds?
Yeah,
Bloody
it's
hell.
a best of 3. I don't know why you do that, but
too much
so
pressure.
3 rounds is the standard. And then you basically get the option for a very quick rematch. If that's activated and it goes 2-0, it's over. You don't get the chance for another game. You just kind of go back to the lobby.
Yeah.
If it goes 1-1, then you get the option for a third game.
Tiebreak.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, win-lose, I'd always kind of want the rematch. If it's an easy win, I'm like, let's go again, or maybe I just, you weren't ready for what I was doing, so let's go again. If I lost, I was like, come on, man, let's go again.
Yeah.
If it's close, win or lose, I'm like, surely we need to go again, whatever. But most people you fight will just one and done you. If they win, they're gone, and
just
you're like,
weave off, yeah,
or win if they lose, and you're like, well, I just don't get that kind of mentality. It just did really, really, really frustrate me, especially when it's a close loss and you really want to go again, and they're just like, nope. Like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Really, I saw a couple of people I follow on Twitter, X even,
Yes, good catch.
Yeah, were moaning about the same things. It's not just me. It just seemed like a really... I don't know why, because there's nothing that says you need to go again, but it felt like a real shitty thing to do. I'd really fucking get my goat on it a bit, and I'd be like, oh...
Yeah, that's just the thing though of online communities. This is the disadvantage of having access to anybody who's got it in the world, is that you just get, I reckon about 60% just knobs that just want to win at all costs and don't want to risk losing own two. Like if they beat you once, they're like that'll do me on your bike. It'd be good. I don't know if there's any tools in games. It'd be good if there was like some sort of community based like clan thing where you sort of all agree a set number of rules that we always play best of three and things like that. And I'm sure there are online communities outside of the game that do that and like find each other and play against each other. But failing that, you're at the mercy of just whoever's picked up the controller and probably thinks, nah, don't fancy that again, or I've got you can seethe with that because I'm just going to leave. It'd be good if you could set it up before the match. You could like filter the search so that you only play best of three, like overall matches, and then if they leave after the first one, they get penalised or something like that. Would be useful.
I hope hopefully they're going to kind of monitor what people are saying and things, and it's an easy tweak, as you say, isn't it? It's just another game mode, simple as that, or something like you can customise it into that, because you can really customise the rounds and things. Yeah. So to customise it as a best of three,
like
if
series.
both people are, then don't see why not.
Can you choose? Do you have to choose the same character in between the matches? So if you're doing a best of three, so you won 2-0, and then you like rematch, they're like, yes, is it the same characters, or can you go back and say, actually, I'm going to change to Zangri for...
You know what? It's a really good point. I actually can't remember, because I haven't played the game for about 6 weeks. I booted it up quickly today. I would say you can. You must be able to, I'd imagine. But I actually don't know, because now I'm thinking about it, it's a very quick, like it's, both press X and it just kicks in. So maybe it's not. Maybe it is just, you go with that and it's the best of three under those rules, I think.
Yeah. How does the ranking up and down work? Is it just... Like, for example, my only exposure to this is playing like FIFA one time and Rocket League and like Overwatch, and essentially the way they would do it was that it'd be like a season, quote unquote. So your first like 3 matches are like basically trying to find out where your bar is. Then the next 10 sort of define if you get enough points, you'll go up a league or down a league. How does it work in Street Fighter 6? What's the setup? Is it similar?
Yeah, it's similar. So each game you play will be a ranked game. Would be like you get points essentially. If you win, depending on how you win in terms of like the style, special moves, percentage of energy, everything gets considered. Nice. And so you'll get a ranking for that. If you beat someone who's levels above you as well, like it will always try and keep you somewhat the same, but if you've just leveled up and they're about to level up again, if that win goes your way 2-0, they're going to lose a bunch of points, you're going to gain a load of points. So that's the quickest way to kind of go through. And then each time you hit a milestone, you'll go up essentially, although you can't see it it's not like FIFA, Prem and whatnot. Essentially you're then going up into another league or going down into another league. And it actually, again, I haven't played it long enough to remember, but in the very bottom, it's done in a way where if you lose, there's no penalty for losing. Okay. So it will kind of slowly let you kind of build your way up. Yeah. And then when you hit that sort of first ceiling, then it will, kind of go more even. So, up and down similar. And then when you get higher, a loss will really sort of cost you, and you've got to win a lot more to kind of go through those final kind of few divisions. So it is really the best that, the people at the top must be outrageous, really, because a loss there is going to really, really, really cost you.
How do they handle people just quitting halfway through? Do you just get an auto win? Like, did you ever face that a lot? Where say you smash someone in round 1 and they're like perfect. I don't know if we did that, and they just went, I'm not dealing with that for round 2. Yeah,
I feel like there's no penalty, because you actually again get that quite a lot, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, if you're not good enough to beat me, where do you think? What's your aim?
What are you doing on it?
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Like, what, you're going to do this to get all the way to the top? Like, it ain't going to work. Like, so, you definitely get it. Does, I think, because the games are very quick, you kind of, if you're playing for an hour and a half, you'll go through it. It's a couple of minutes, isn't it? A game, essentially. You'll play a lot of people, and like you said, that you will see that a lot of people are dicks, basically. You know, it does kind of bring out the worst of people and the best. You know, you get like a nice little comment or a thumbs up afterwards or stuff. You know, when you have a good fight. Yeah, the classic GG. Honestly, these games, some of the voice notes I've probably got on my Xbox 360, if you could boot that up, like people screaming at me. Yeah. But yeah, I think because you go for a lot of people, you do see the worst of people as well as kind of the better side.
I remember playing like UFC 3, I think it was, online, and I was fighting someone. They were Conor McGregor, and I think I was Aldo or whatever, and they kept spamming this spin kick, which was like a common move, and I couldn't. If you're good enough, you just parry it and really hurt them, but I wasn't. And anyway, they beat me, and they sent me a little like text message afterwards saying, "Oh, you never beat the Irish." And I was like, "Well," and I just went back and went, "Yeah, fair play, mate, well done." And then I hope McGregor does well in his next fight. And they responded was like, "Oh yeah, cheers, mate." I was like, "Whack like a cock to start with." What's wrong with these people? Anyway,
that's similar.
That's the danger of these. Can they message you after on this one? Like, did you get many or not?
So you get like you can do a little thumbs up thing. I think the only other way now would be to do it as an actual,
like, hunt them down, find their profile.
Yeah. Which it does have a list of everyone you fought, so you can do that, but you get less of it then because it's harder to kind of.
Yes.
You've got to go that extra step to do it, which is probably a good thing, really, because I don't think many of my comments I ever got were good ones.
No. Did you have any target in mind for online? Like, once you got in there and got your feet underneath you, you're like, I want to get to this level. So was it Street Fighter 4? You had like some insane target and got. I don't know how close you got, but you was playing it like so much that.
I can't remember how that league system worked there, but I just wanted to get into the highest. I think the top 1,000 or 10,000, something stupid. I got nowhere near it. Probably better than I've ever done before, but you know, That's a no, not really, Joe. I've kind of just a bit more realistic now. I'm a bit older, so I was just happy to kind of, kick back, play a few games, have some fun with it. And it's funny, I kind of got to where I've got a couple of styles with a couple of characters. If that doesn't work, I'm kind of out of idea. I'm not, because I can see what people are doing, but I know I have to, really go in and relearn things. And I found it. I did go into the training grounds a few times because it is very, very good. Everything you want to know is just there, like how to link up your combos. You've got I think you've got all the frame data, like when you want to get really.
Yeah. I remember seeing that in Smash Brothers. They had like all like the knockback distances, all this shit. And I'm like, Jesus, they've really got all this. Yeah. It's excellent.
It's all there, and they kind of simplify everything, take it step by step. So if you want to learn, if you kind of went on and done half an hour a night or whatever, just going for almost the lessons, which it basically has, you'd probably, get very, very good. And I started learning a few bits, but then trying to implement that in a match. I guess really what you should have done is learn that to start with. I don't know if you could then. I guess if I started with a new character, I'd probably. I don't know if you'd go back to the beginning, because that would be the key thing. Then you'd be trying those newer moves against people that are weak anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of going in the level I was, then trying to learn things. It wouldn't work, and I would just revert to form, because it's all such quick. You haven't really. It's not like you've got time to think. You're reacting constantly. Yeah. So it's difficult, but it's all there. If you want to be learning, again, the systems are all there. They've broken it down as easy as possible. So. It's there, but no, I didn't really have a target. I just where I am is where I am, and I can't. Basically, that was definitely one of the reasons I fell away with it a few weeks ago. Also, just the fact that I've always had a bit of an issue with these sorts of games where you kind of it's so difficult. So you log on, it's really addictive. If you're winning, you kind of don't want to stop. Then you lose a few, but you can't call it a night without a win.
Yeah.
It's these vicious cycles. Like sometimes you log off and you're just pissed off at the world. Other times you don't want to log off, but you're just having to do it. And then you kind of think, fuck, I've just sunk 2.5 hours into that. But there's no progress made. You're just fucking around. And I don't know. I do find it hard in that respect. I've kind of for so long now just played single story-based games. There was a name there and you're going to kill it off.
Yeah.
And I kind of, this is lovely in a way because it's just, it's pure gaming in a way. You just log on, you only need 5 minutes, you can play a couple of games, but also that 5 minutes often turns into multiple hours. It's that kind of one more game. It all loads so fast now. You're in so quick that,
Yes.
and especially now, when there is a really big user base, it's a bit too much. Too much of a good thing sometimes.
Yeah, I was playing that F1 2023 this year.
Yeah.
I put 50 hours into it. Played like maybe 10 hours of the story and then probably 5 hours of like a career mode. But the rest of it I was playing like it wasn't all online, but it was like a service-based style like F1 world where you upgrade your car and you just do random races, like quick, like 5-lap. And I'd come off that and think, I really haven't. That doesn't feel like time well spent, but it was just strangely addictive just to jump on. And I'm like a purist. I want to play the whole 100% race and like do the pit stops and all that. But I did find myself getting sucked into this like really quick, on point, in out. Okay, that's done. Move on to the next challenge. And fighting games are very much that because it is so quick. You're in, you're out, and you're either happy or you're sad. But it's definitely a strategy around these online games. But I often would come off that and think, what have I just done there? What progress has been made? And the answer was not a lot. And
I think on Street Fighter 5 they started doing these nights, where it would be like you'd log on and I didn't ever do it because they started advertising it as I fell away with it. If something like that came on where I knew like Saturday night, there's a big, like almost like Poker Stars. You're logging on, registering. There's a game. There's going to be a load of people your sort of level.
Yeah,
that would be great. Where you just know that you're there for that. Play
like an
and then you're
or
like,
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they do stuff like that, I'll be really on board for that sort of thing. I think.
I was going to say to you, what now? Because like you said, you played it for about 25-ish hours and then fell away. These games don't just disappear overnight. They are sort of, this is here until 7 in some form. Like, is that what, is it only ever going to get picked up if they do something like that? Or could you see, I don't know, at a quieter time, you're like, oh, I'll spend a few weeks on Street Fighter between games. Could it become that for you?
Yeah, I think it will. I think even playing it again today, I was like straight back in it. I was like, oh yeah, this, I don't know if it was Zelda or something came out and I thought, right, I'll just drop this for a bit. And then, but like I said, it almost put a bad taste in my mouth, but that was me rather than the game.
Yeah.
So I did, and like Street Fighter 4, I think I ended up going back to that, with years between it, like, and going back and getting right. The last time I played it was via, it would have been my Series S. On the backward compatibility, or would it have been was it my S or the one? I can't remember. But basically, going back into Xbox Live Arcade, you could boot up the old system, having Street Fighter 4 on there. And the weird thing is, it was like the same sort of 50 people still playing it. When I would log on, I would play the same people every night. Then and
probably still had all your progress. I imagine it's all still there from years ago.
I don't know if it did or not because I think I had a different username. I lost all my. Yeah, but basically sometimes you would then connect, and if someone knew they hated playing you, they would instantly come out the lobby. It's hilarious because it's just the same. But you'd know at sort of 7 o'clock on a Monday, it'd be the same sort of 4 people on, and you'd be like, "Mate, come on, we got to play because there's no one else to play." But so I think it'll be. I'm not going to sell this. I know I sell pretty much everything. I'll keep this, and I know I'll jump on it. Whether it's this week again or 6 months from now, I'll get a urge to play it and kind of crack on again. So yeah, I think that'll be the way it goes. I'll tell you the one thing that was different this time between 4 and 5, I actually bought myself like a little fight stick for both those games. I didn't see one. I think I might have messaged you and couldn't see that anyone was really doing anything. So I was just using the PS4, PS5 dual, what's it called? Dual Shock or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called now. Dual Sense controller, which I was kind of like when I loaded it up, I was like, this is going to be poor. I've always played it with the 3 since not the Super NES days. That was a bit of garbage, but you just want the row of three. It's close to the arcade. I never had one of the joysticks like the 500 quid jobbies. This is just like a £50 adapted controller. It just has the D-pad and then your 2 rows of 3 and your bumper buttons. Just does make it a bit easier for these sort of games. But to be honest, the DualSense did an admirable job. It was still usable. It was decent. Yeah, absolutely. But
I just typed in like fighting stick for Street Fighter 6. It's got a Hori fighting stick, but it's 230 quid. Sorry, 2 rows of 4 buttons and a little joystick. So Don't know if
It's
those
weird because
middle market ones are still knocking about.
no, there was a company called Mad Cats, I think, and
Yeah.
they done like a decent range for both 4 and 5. Where it was like the one I got was the basic, and then there were like several levels up, all the way up to like this, weighted, representation of what you'd have had back in the arcade. It was, and that was maybe 200 or 300, like similar to what you're looking at there, really, but maybe even more. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it's a shame they're not there, really, considering how I don't know if 5s cost them, really, and then they just weren't.
Maybe like compatibility issues, because ideally you just use the same stick again because the buttons haven't changed. They haven't added a new fucking functionality, have they? A new backwards trigger or anything for you to use, but they often get froze out, the old ones. You have to buy a new one, so it's a bit of a pain, but I'm sure if you searched hard enough there'll be some lower level one. There's even one here, Hori PS5 Fighting Commander. It's basically the controller, but rather than just the 4 buttons, it's 6 sort of in 2 lines, so that's
okay.
That's what it costs. 52 quid, but
yeah,
we digress. Let's get to the gaming gallery. Street Fighter 6 lurking. Obviously now we've got the botchling bin if you need it to utilise it and really punish it. But Street Fighter 6, Capcom's newest entry. I'm just trying to find if I've got your old Street Fighter 5. So I have got it. I can't remember as and when you did this, but sitting on a gold.
Fucking hell.
So what are we doing there then with subpar releases?
I give everything a gold though, don't I?
Yeah.
Bloody poor Dead Space getting a kick in for no reason.
One of the highest rated games of the year. But talking about the highest rate, this is a 92.
Yeah,
Stunning.
very, very high. Yeah.
So being good company if it did get that echelon. But yeah, what are you gonna do with this?
I would give it a gold as well. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's probably knocking on the door of a plat, but I feel like there's all with these sorts of service, and it's not a service game, but it's going to be added on. So if I could come back when it's a full, the ultimate edition or whatever they call it, 2 or 3 years from now, potentially would be then going up a level. But for now, what they've done here is, although a lot of the systems and modes aren't for me, they could not have been, more. Because I think for most people, a game that's in its 8th, 9th, I mean, we've already had like the not numbered entries, but they are really mainline entries. You probably are up to the Mortal Kombat levels. So most people ain't jumping into that, and rightly so, because you're going to have a hard time. Like, it's like me now, if I went into Modern Warfare, whatever they're on now, it ain't happening. I'm going to get this waste of my time. So to try and make it as accessible as possible is fantastic. Some of the modes, like the World Tour, didn't hit for me. They might hit for someone, but you can forget about it. The truth is, it has no impact on the bits you want to do. I just think they've done a great job with this. The modes are. I love the core fighting mechanic is brilliant.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll add to that. I don't know if they have in the past or not. I think it is more just characters, modes, skins, and whatnot. They kind of keep adding to. But they really, really sort of. I don't know when I reviewed Street Fighter 5 in its run, if it was early or late or where. I'd imagine it was very early. But yeah, they've got the release right here. No complaints for me. They don't really need to do anything. I'm sure they still will. So yeah.
Did you notice in game any monetization efforts in terms of like some sort of battle pass or anything like? Was it in your face asking you to spend money, or was it just?
No, nothing I could see. I mean, I'm trying because I know I actually bought a couple of skins on 4, maybe actually it was 5. But it's the first time I've ever done that. I think still to this day, that is the only game I've spent any in-game money on, like actual hard-earned money on. But no, I don't know if it's even possible at this time. I think you're kind of at the base level at the moment, but I could be wrong with that. There might be like packs to buy and stuff, but definitely no nothing like you were saying. No,
well,
it's definitely not.
You can get like a year 1 pass for it, which has a character pack, and there's like an ultimate edition. There's a deluxe edition, and then you can buy fighter coins, but I don't know what they're necessarily used for.
maybe there are skins to get, then I don't know. But like I said, it's definitely not shoved in your face at all.
That's the main thing, isn't it? It's like, you don't want it to be affecting the gameplay. And
no, and that's what I mean. If it's there, I'm not looking for it. So it's it's a level back from anything on the main pages. You're not seeing it there.
Here we go. 250 fighter coins, in-game currency that can be used in the shops. They can be used to obtain various in-game items, fighting passes, and additional characters and stages as they're introduced. So if they add stuff there, that's for people. But the worst case scenario is that the online is somehow, or some sort of online progression is tied to that sort of stuff. And I think most these days you won't be getting away with that. So most tend just to steer clear of it and just have optional.
Be interesting to know if, because I think that's how they've always done it previously. Was like a fighter pack, 4 new characters. A bit like Smash does it character by character now, but that was my wonder if you could just, or if there's a pack of 6, can I now just go in and buy the one I want? That'd be interesting to know. Yeah,
it's worth keeping an eye on. But then again, if you've only ever used 2 anyway, it's of no benefit for you, is it? It's only for those that want everything. And even the best players will be like that, won't they? They won't have all 18 players that characters that they'll play as. It'll be a handful at most. And that's the way it goes. So that's Street Fighter 6, earns itself a nice gold. Just before we go, one question. So you've got the 3 big hitters, you've got Street Fighter, you've got Mortal Kombat, and you've got Tekken as well. Why Street Fighter? Why has it always been Street Fighter? Have you dabbled in the Mortal Kombats or the Tekkens of the world? I imagine back in the day you did, because it was one of those things. I think everyone tried all of those at some point, and then people just sort of stuck with their favourites. But it's always been Street Fighter for you, it seems. Or is that a mischaracterisation? Has Tekken and Mortal Kombat both been nipping at their heels, and it's just Street Fighter's won out this time?
Yeah, no, it's always been Street. I've never even really played Tekken. The only other one I've really played is Soul Calibur.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I might have had a little go of
Virtual Fighter.
Yeah, because they Virtual Fighter, and then they had back in the day, like they would try and do like a one-on-one fighting game out of a lot of things. Killer Instinct, that was one on the Super Nintendo or N64, I forget. It was an arcade thing, but so I have played some others. But to be honest, Street Fighter was first. Like obviously Street Fighter was several years before any of the others, and Street Fighter 2 still beat all those others. It was just, if you were around at that time, kid, it was everywhere. Like, it's all anyone spoke about at school. Everyone had their main character, beloved character. My days at the weekend was spent going down the arcades and scrapping together a few 20p's to play it. And I guess, the original Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, the first 2 or 3, they were like inferior games, but with that kind of novelty,
the gore,
the death, the gore, and it got people in. But when you kind of stripped it away, it was just poor in comparison. As far as I remember, and you played. I think in later iterations they kind of really improved the gameplay, but it was always Street Fighter was head and shoulders above for me. Just all those original games, and kind of they done things with it that people would mod the cabinets. I don't know if you know this, and so you'd be down the arcades and there'd be this kind of version that would only be around in a couple of arcades where you could fire 16 fireballs, or it was really fast gameplay when it wasn't meant to be. And
before Super Hyper became a feature they put in,
And I feel like because of that, they then actually released the hyper fighting version. There's all these kind of things that were just kind of, at the time, felt like groundbreaking. You'd never seen before, and it just kept you interested constantly. And then, it was almost like they knew themselves. Like they would never make a Street Fighter 3. There was about 17 versions of Street Fighter 2. And he was like, what? It's such a weird thing to do nowadays. But, I love it. It's probably, weirdly, the longest franchise I've stuck with and continue to enjoy. It predates Zelda and Resi and all the other those big kind of games I still love to this day. Street Fighter, my first love. There you go.
Japanese as well. There's always something in the water over there. some of the games. There's these special franchises that just keep coming back. They might stumble at some point, but they come back with a fight. And once again, Capcom, just other than Exoprimal, been absolutely just killing it.
They're on it.
Just really waiting for Dino Crisis one day to get my...
I never played it.
It is resi light, and look, it ain't as good, but that nowadays in like a modern form would be good. I think they could do a good job of that, but got to finish remaking these other Resident Evils and do one hopefully one day. But I know we say that every time we talk about Capcom, but doing well. Street Fighter 6 on the charge, a nice gold from Adcock. That'll do for Idle Game Chat for this edition. So nothing more for us to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.